How's the coloring going? You should be working on this picture. All right, I'm going to continue. We just left off where Priscilla was going to be the cook because she's the best. As soon as it was light on Wednesday morning, a roaring fire was built in the huge fireplace in Elder Brewster's kitchen. Remember he had the biggest house back in England? I wonder if he still had the biggest house in New England or in America. A great pile of red-hot coals was placed in the brick oven in the chimney. Then Mary Chilton and Priscilla tied their aprons around them, tucked up their sleeves, and put white caps over their hair. Their hands fairly flew as they measured and sifted the flour or rolled and cut cookies and tarts. Over at another table, I don't even know how they made cookies and tarts. They had flour, but where did they get the sugar? Maybe they saved some and rationed it from England when they brought it. Okay. Or they used those berries, those dried berries, for some of the sweet. Over at another table, remember Allerton and Constance Hopkins washed and chopped dried fruits for pies and puddings. Out on the sunny doorstone, so that would probably be like the front porch or the stone that is underneath the door. Love Brewster and Frances Billington sat cracking nuts and picking out the plump kernels for the cakes. What a merry place the big kitchen was. When the oven was hot, the coals were drawn out and the long baking pans were put in. Soon, sweet, spicy odors filled the room, and on the long shelves were rows of pies, tarts, and little nut cakes. In the afternoon, all of the girls and boys took their baskets or pails and went to the beach to dig clams. Clams will make a delicious broth. We shall need hundreds of them, said Priscilla. While they were gone, some of the men brought boards, hammers, and saws and built 2 long tables out of doors near the common house. Like 2 of our picnic tables. I bet our table at the cottage school is maybe as long as one of theirs. We have a really long table. Or maybe theirs was a lot longer. While they were gone, here the men would eat, and a table would be spread in the elder's house for the women and children. It was Thursday morning, and the Pilgrims were up early to prepare for the guests they had invited to the feast of Thanksgiving. The air was mild and pleasant, and a soft purple haze lay upon the field and wood. We could not have had a more beautiful day for our feast, thought Miles Standish, as he climbed the hill to fire the sunrise gun. Just then, wild yells and shouts told the astonished Pilgrims that their guests had arrived. Down the hill from the forest came Massasoit and his brother, and nearly 100 of his friends, dressed in their finest skins and in holiday paint and feathers. The captain and a number of other men went out to welcome the Indians, and the women hurried to prepare breakfast for them. Good grief, these guys are going to stay for a week, I guess, and eat up all the food. Squanto and John Alden built a big fire near the brook, and soon the clam broth was simmering in the great kettle. The rolls of the drum called all to prayer, for the Pilgrims never begin a day without asking God's blessing upon it. The white men talk to the Great Spirit, Squanto explained to Chief Massasoit. They thank him for his good gifts. The Indians seemed to understand and listened quietly to the prayers. Then all sat down at the long tables. The women were soon busy passing great bowls of clam broth to each hungry guest. There were piles of brown bread and sweet cakes. There were dishes of turnips and boiled meat, and later bowls of pudding made from Indian corn. While they were eating, one of the Indians brought a great basket filled with popped corn and poured it out upon the table before Elder Brewster. The Pilgrims had never seen popcorn before. They filled a large bowl with this new dainty and sent it into the children's table. When breakfast was over, there was another service of Thanksgiving led by Elder Brewster. Then Governor Bradford took his friends to the grassy common where they would have games. A number of little stakes were driven into the ground, and here several groups of Indians and pilgrims played quoits. The Indians often throwing the greater number of rings over the stakes. Let me see if I can find a picture of that. Eliana. Let me see, I'm looking for it. There's a little one in here, but I wonder if there's a bigger one in my other book. Well, here's a picture of the feast. See Massasoit with his big headdress that went all the way to the ground. But this is the kind of game that they're talking about, where they had to toss rings on a stick. I wonder if the Pilgrims had that game or if the Indians showed them how to play it. Then the Indians entertained their friends with some wonderful tests in running and jumping. After this, Governor Bradford invited them to sit down on the grass and watch the soldiers drill on the common. The Indians' drill means they would march up and down and do certain things with their guns and practice. The Indians sat down not knowing what to expect, for they had never seen soldiers drill. Suddenly they heard the sound of trumpets and the roll of drums. Down the hill marched the little army of only 19 men and the flag of old England waving above their heads. To right and to left they marched in single file by twos and threes. Then at a word from the captain, fired their muskets into the air. The Indians were not expecting this, and some sprang to their feet in alarm. Again came the sharp reports of the muskets. Many of the Indians looked frightened. "Have the white men brought us here to destroy us?" they asked. "The white men are our friends. They will not harm us," answered Massasoit. Hardly had he finished speaking when there came a deep roar from the cannon on the fort. The sound rolled from hill to hill. At this, the Indians became more and more uneasy. They did not enjoy the way the white men entertained their guests. They didn't think it was entertainment. I was calling to Eliana to see if she would make us some popcorn. Some thought of an excuse to leave the village. "We will go into the forest and hunt," they said. "We will bring deer for the white men's feast." Captain Standish smiled as he saw the Indians start for the forest. "They do not like the thunder of our cannon," he said. But the next morning, the 5 Indians returned, each bringing a fine deer. Saturday was the last day of the feast. How busy the women were preparing this greatest dinner. Of course, the men and boys helped too. They dressed the game, brought water from the brook, and wood for the fire. There were turkeys stuffed with beech nuts browning before the fire. There were roasts of all kinds and a wonderful stew made of birds and other game. And you should have seen the great dishes of purple grapes, the nuts, and the steaming puddings. The table seemed to groan under its load of good things. The Indians had never seen such a feast. Said Massasoit as he ate the puffy dumplings in Priscilla's stew. "Good. The Great Spirit gives good gifts to his white children," said Massasoit. So the happy day ended, and the Indians returned to their wigwams. The Pilgrims never forgot their first Thanksgiving Day. Each year when the harvests were gathered, they would set aside a day for thanking God for his good gifts, and for years their Indian friends joined them in this feast. The Pilgrims made the first pumpkin pudding by cutting the top off the pumpkin, filling it with milk and honey, and baking it in the fire. I'll show you that picture. Wow. And that's the true story of the first Thanksgiving in America. And we still celebrate it today. Let's see. I'm going to read this one. We still got just a few minutes on this video. Thanksgiving. "Have you cut the wheat in the blowing fields, the barley, the oats, and the rye, the golden corn, and the pearly rice? For the winter days are nigh. We have reaped them all from shore to shore, and the grain is safe on the threshing floor. Have you gathered the berries from the vine, and the fruit from the orchard trees? the dew and the scent from the roses and thyme in the hive of the honeybees. The peach and the plum and the apple are ours, and the honeycomb from the scented flowers. The wealth of the snowy cotton field and the gift of the sugar cane, the savory herb and the nourishing root, there has nothing been given in vain. We have gathered the harvest from shore to shore, and the measure is full and brimming o'er. Then lift up the head with a song, and lift up the hand with a gift to the ancient giver of all, the spirit in gratitude lift. For the joy and the promise of spring, for the hay and the clover sweet, the barley, the rye, and the oats, the rice and the corn and the wheat, the cotton and sugar and fruit, the flowers and the fine honeycomb, the country so fair and so free, the blessings and glory of home. Thanksgiving, giving thanks to God for all of his blessings. And that poem was by Amelia Barr. I'll read this last little part to you. It says, 3 weeks after the Pilgrims' first Thanksgiving, the ship Fortune arrived, bearing beloved friends and family, a total of 35 new colonists, including one passenger, Martha Ford, who gave birth to a son the day after arriving in Plymouth Colony. From this point on, the colony never again suffered the privations of the first winter, and the colony grew and prospered. Here's my last little part. This is from William Bradford. Remember, he was one of the first settlers, but he's now, when we leave this story, he's the new governor. As one small candle may light 1,000, so the light here kindled has shone unto many, yea, in some sort to our whole nation. He knew that what they started there would continue and grow and hopefully never burn out. And we get all of the blessings from their hard work in settling America. But I think something we should definitely always remember is to be thankful and try to be thankful even in this quarantine where we can't be with each other every single day. Try every day to think of at least one thing, but 3 is better, to be thankful for. I'm thankful for you, each one of you. I'm thankful that we have had such a good school year. I'm thankful that none of my friends, nobody that I know has gotten sick with this COVID sickness, the reason why we're having to be quarantined. I'm so thankful for that. And I look forward to seeing all of you very soon. Okay, bye.